Yeah, I'll do. Hi, Sneha. Good morning.
Hi, good
How are
morning.
you?
Good, good.
So, yeah, last evening we were talking about some of the things around um, how the wealth and lifestyle is very unique for different people. And
Right.
what do you see as a woman that how it is different for a woman when it
Hmm.
comes to lifestyle and wealth?
First of all, I think for women, the word wealth, I think, doesn't really like attracts them. I've seen far too many. We've both seen far too many women like being shy of like even the word money doesn't resonate so much with them. They like the moment they hear that they maybe because of societal taboo and few other things like a lot of association with money they seem shy of. So wealth for them is an indirect, like lifestyle for them is an indirect way of like sort of understanding money. Like they usually quote that I just want a good lifestyle, I just want like to live better, and I just want, and of course the access to which is through money, right? But there's just an there's just a cover of how they want to sort of talk about money, and usually that is for women through lifestyle.
Okay.
So and
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'd like to hear from you in your previous experiences. What is it that you have experienced around women's
Yeah.
behavior with money and wealth, and what
Yeah.
do they think when they think of the word wealth? When you're in your interactions, what is the first things that sort of comes to their
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. So, yeah, as you rightly articulated, and it is so important that I have always seen in my last 2 decades of interaction that they always look for ease, not for money. Okay. So, ease is around their living experience, ease around their cash flow, ease around their some of the things, the basic things, some of the things based on their aspiration, motivation, and some of those things they want to achieve into their life. And definitely it has some monetary value when you want to acquire some ease and some of the things in life. Um, then when I have seen male talking about wealth and money and uh, lifestyle, it is all about like numbers, very much number oriented when they talk about, hey, I want to achieve, hey, what's your goal? Hey, I want to achieve 8.5 crore. I want to achieve 7 crore, 10 crore, 16 crore. So that's the number. That's the number. They just talk about those numbers. But women always talk about their emotion, some of their emotion, whether it's coming from their kids' education, or probably a nice vacation, easing out their mind, going out somewhere because that's good for her state of mind or whatever. So they
Yeah.
always talk and express in the terms of ease, and that's what the
And
basic.
community building. And I think like you rightly pointed out, for them, money is also synonymous with like community building, putting money back into the society. Like
Yeah,
when they really quote numbers, like they quote like, that I want to send my child to this school, or I want to be a part of this, like I want to go on a vacation here, and
yeah.
like the numbers are, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, I'll give you they are definitely kind of more sensitive than men. I would say that I do not want to generalize, but like because of the hectic schedule and running the startup, I'm not at my home nowadays. Like every weekend I go, and I live in Indranagar right now. So after coming from my Airbnb accommodation, I was crossing the road, and everyone was on rush. And there was a women driver driving the crossing the road, and just now it happened just 10 minutes ago, and then she paused and like and just allowed me cross the road, and then I have just also did like this, and that was such a nice feeling that they are, when it comes to money or lifestyle, it's that they are very sensitive around their emotions. And emotion could be anything, whether they want to achieve something, they want to ease out their life, they want to do something. So this incident just 10 minutes ago, like, no, it has reminded me some of the things from San Francisco. That because when you cross the road and someone gives you this space and allow you to cross, then you just greet them and do some of those things. So I really liked it and wanted to share. So when it comes to wealth as well, lifestyle as well, it is very sort of that sort of nature they have. That okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes the early realization, not having the early realization
Hmm.
around their goals,
Yeah.
make them like really on a tough spot. Like a 25-year women, like 25-year-old women entering into a job market, not realizing that they might get pregnant at the age of 35 or 34 or 36, and then probably not planning enough that they might go on a break. And that's where most of the strings are getting pulled from the other side of the society, where, oh, you, this is your life, this is how you have to do. So not planning some of those things well becomes like really challenging. This is also
No,
one of
yeah.
the
And
things.
ideally the system, like ideally the burden, the not the burden, but the responsibility of this should lie on the system, right? For the
Yeah.
corporates to provide better care and for them to help them with whenever they take a break. But right now we don't live in a utopian world where, the system is perfectly placed to sort of help them go in and out of this, So I guess in that case, a lot of individual responsibility also sort of lies with women till the systems are not perfect to support them with the care work. And I guess that's where uh wealth, like starting managing wealth and at an earlier like life cycle sort of helps them, and brings them into the secure work environment. Because like you said, if they take a care work break or any other break, right, like I mean you might want to also start a company or like that sort of break, they have to be prepared for like individually, because the system or the society just yet like overall is not like there are not enough sort of checks and balances to support them. Like so that's where I think individual responsibility or individual uh, I guess um like we can say that I guess individual desire, like now they have to have an individual desire to sort of set themselves up, like in case they face all these like challenges. And
So, do you think
yeah.
that that's the realization they have already, or someone needs to make them realize that, hey, these are the potential events, or sort of events are going to happen in your life, going to be there in your life, and so you have to conduct yourself in certain way to deal with those events. So do you think that women around you are
Hmm.
already aware about it, or you think that it needs more awareness around some of these things? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of research also says that, lower income women in general are far more prepared of the challenges than like, middle income women, or, because a lot of lower income women sort of don't look at anybody for security, or they really rely upon themselves, you know. Of course, they're not necessarily as prepared, but the realization is higher in lower income women. Let's say a daily wage worker, right? The realization is much higher in them than a corporate worker, because a corporate worker still relies on the existing, like, the social security provided by the family, that I like, in case I yet, like, when they some of these structures fail to help them, that is when the realization comes, rather that an earlier age, like you said, the realization, like even for personally for me, the realization was not there when I was entered the workforce. That at that time you thought that things will just take care of themselves, and only when this yet when I was seeing men my age speeding up on this like way more,
Wow.
they got the conversations within amongst each other, like the conversations around investing had started as early as 22, whereas for women the conversations didn't start at that age, or there were many conversations, but I don't think a lot of conversations around investing were necessarily happening, and uh, yeah, I guess this especially when women come from certain backgrounds where they think that they have structures to rely upon, but those structures don't necessarily turn out as they envisioned.
Okay.
That becomes a bit of a reality mismatch between what they had imagined and what actually happens, right? Because indirect, like this item based ask that they get stuck in, right? When they do take a break, and when they do rely on a partner or somebody else to sort of help them through that period, it doesn't necessarily, the structure of funding their everyday needs is not necessarily clear and transparent, and not it's very vague, it's opaque, right? So
Mm,
that's when there's an item based ask, okay, I need money for this, I need money for that. That's
mm,
when it sort of the realization hits that, oh, this is not as easy as I thought it would be.
mhm.
So that's where the reality and the imagination sort of is a mismatch, like
So this
of
is the
how.
conversation which is going on in the ecosystem, and this is how they ask, articulate, like you rightly said. Maybe the conversation is not happening around money, but conversation is around something. So, do you think that in this
Right.
talk right now we can tie it back to the money and the wealth?
Yeah.
Because like they are having those difficult conversations because they are not feeling easy, or like they are not feeling comfortable around some of those things, and that brings them like back to think, oh, okay, I'm not comfortable here. But when it comes to express some of those things, expressing those things, then it like is, okay, how should I express my anxiety? How should I express
Yes.
my discomfort? How should I express my discomfort? And how can so can we help them tie back their discomfort, some of the anxiety they have, to the wealth and lifestyle, and so that they will get some more clarity? What's your
Of
perspective on that?
of course. And when you rightly said, some of their financial insecurity is also redirected to, for example, I've seen younger girls, like at least women who are in 25, 26. A lot of they do face a lot of economic insecurity, but it's redirected to, let's say, get married, and that'll just sort it out. Or a lot of economic insecurity is like you said, money and lifestyle. A lot of insecurity is around money, even though we don't realize it, but it is like the fact that you start feeling a little restless, you want a certain life, and it's redirected to the fact that marriage might sort it out, right, for you,
Yeah.
like, right? And that understanding that, yes, of course, marriage is great, like companionship is great, but will that necessarily sort out a lot of economic
Wow.
security?
Hmm.
That conversation is the first most important conversation to have, that even before decide on these like lifetime decisions, you take these decisions, that understanding that is this going to provide me a lot of economic security. And again, tying back to money, like you asked, I think um, if we start having these honest conversations about like what is it that like with women, on what is it that money means to you, whether it is like better lifestyle, but still, like the only exchangeable currency to achieve that lifestyle would be money, right?
Hmm.
So we have to start, like we all have to start talking about money in the most nudist terms, like in the most bare way possible, like that what is it that that access, and usually women are labeled money minded, or when they start talking about too much, men are usually called financially savvy, or women are usually, oh, she's so money minded. She, the moment she starts thinking too much about it in the most like naked ways, then she's sort of labeled. So they find out like uh alternative ways to talk about it, or so
Mm.
that, I think, that shame has to first go, that guilt has to go,
Yeah.
that it's totally okay to want more money, it's totally okay to like
Yeah.
aspire for a better lifestyle, it's
Yeah.
totally okay to aspire for more, like that guilt has to first go, and it's totally okay to want a little bit for yourself, like you don't necessarily have to just like want it for everybody. It's okay to have desires and needs of your own, and
So
like
are you saying that this narrative of marriage is for companionship and not for easing your life in terms of wealth and kind of money and the growth and some of those things? So that realization, probably in early 30s or late 20s, is important. Do you think that?
yeah, absolutely. I think this narrative that has been said, that it will provide you economic security, we have seen, right, like
Yeah,
with clients, like,
sure.
right, like that the moment they realize, that's the turning point, right, that this doesn't necessarily provide them individual economic security, and this ties them, like this doesn't provide them a lot of liberation even in the relationship, right? Even in the relationship, they don't necessarily feel like an equal unless there is some sort of trust fund that has been created to provide a very regular systematic like income every month, which we know doesn't exist, right? In the
Yeah.
current form, there is no system that provides them with a very rigorous system which provides them with a monthly sort of payment for their care work or for their services. It doesn't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's no clear way to barter, right?
Mm.
So in that case, when they start having this that realization that marriage or relationships in are not necessarily going to redeem, like, or provide any sort of relief in
Mm.
terms of economic security,
Mm.
that is a very important conversation, I think, to have. Like, that
Mm.
yes, you imagine it to provide it. And
Yeah.
of course, in earlier cases, like when women 100 years back, when they couldn't own property, even they couldn't even own their, like, they couldn't even, sorry, not own, but they couldn't even claim ownership over their own children, right? That's if the children were, they were the men's children, right?
Yeah.
And property was not
Wow.
theirs.
Crazy. That
Money,
was the
yeah,
narrative there 100 years
that
ago.
was the narrative 100 years back. That was
Yeah.
it. Like even for a lot of people now, right? But that shift has happened, right? Now you can own property, and now you can own like so that ask, or that so I'll give you an example. In Haryana, women were looked down upon. It was looked down upon to stake claim in your ancestral property, right? From the parents' side, right? It's interesting, but when the Hindu Succession Act happened, it was their in-laws, or it was their who started pressurizing these women to
Mm.
sort of stake claim to that property. Now they were, right, like, so they were tied. So women
Mm.
were first, earlier it was like so shameful, how can she even think about it? But the moment the Succession Act happened, everybody wanted, like, the in-laws were again pressurizing the woman to stake claim in the original, so the family, like the family she comes from, right? So it's the prenatal the pressure from the prenatal to not be so shameful about asking for money, and it's the other side which pressurizes them to take money from there. So like, and so this, she was often like, in this structure, she's often like pushed from this side to that side, like on often like for ulterior greedy motives, right? And that's the conversation, and again, that's the realization women need to also have around
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm pretty sure, like, you've also mentioned in a lot of cases that high income, really uh, women who are at top of their game, right, in corporate structures,
Yeah.
also are hesitant to even discuss money or to like talk about money or to
Yeah,
even manage their own money. Like you,
yeah,
right, you notice so many times that so
yeah.
many women don't want to manage their own money because they have the ability to earn, but
Mhm.
somehow they feel like they don't have the ability to
Yeah, yeah,
invest or
yeah.
grow or yeah.
Yeah, that's you brought a very good point here because yeah, I have seen some of the women talking about this language. Even they are on a probably a salary or CTC of more than 2 crores and 1.5 crore, but still they over the coffee they say that money is getting managed by my husband. Okay, so some of those conversations, but um, there are few catalysts, there are few occasions which becomes a reason to rethink about this particular whole structure and thinking around the money and who is going to manage and just have little bit of ownership on what they have. One of the event I remember, like in Mumbai, one of the friend from ISB, she was referring to when she went to an event which was like very women focused and around the wealth and some of those things. And when I asked this question to her, then like Pranav, do you know that when I came out from that event, there was only one realization that, hey, where is my money? Where is my
Mm,
where is my I have goosebumps like right now. Like because naturally, like we discussed and we are tying it back again, the discussed that naturally or behavior wise, if you see women, they were looking for ease. So that ease was there in the life probably. And they have never realized that, okay, they need to have a separate account, separate money, separate sort of kitty to take care of like their ease, desire, and everything. But some of these catalysts where it has been talked and some of the pressing issues has been discussed, then she realized, oh, I'm also probably making 2 crores every year since last 15 years. So maybe 30 crores post tax, maybe 10 crores, 15, 20 crores. Where is that money going? Where is that money? Do I have enough control on that? Not about control, but like in general, do I have access to that money if I want to decide
want
something?
to fulfill.
To
Yeah.
decide
Yeah.
something in my life at the age of 45 or 47 or 50. I do not want to work maybe after 50, after hitting menopause and like some of those things. Why should I wait till 65? And so then like if it is very planned around the men's structure of wealth and sort of cash flow and all those things, it spoils the whole ease. And then that's how we
Mm,
started our conversation. That oh, where is the ease? They were looking for ease, but
right.
because of this disparity of lifestyle, disparity of cash flow, probably they got stuck and now they feel, oh, I'm not at ease. What do you think
Yes.
about some of these things?
No, absolutely. And even autonomy, right? Like when you say this, so it's been noticed in like that women's resources also were always considered shared versus the man's were considered his, right? Like let's say even a mobile phone in a lower income household, if you notice, is not hers alone. Her children have access to that phone. So many times women's resources are generally shared, but the man's resource is considered to be private and his, right? In the same way, I think with a lot of the money, right, her income is supposed like is kind of like, she doesn't have like, and that doesn't provide her with autonomy. Of course, when you are in a relationship and people pool all their resources, and of course men also share all their resources with the family, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's also how much autonomy do they have in those decisions, right? Like that bit becomes very important. And then who has access to it for distilling those resources or distilling that down, right? Like you said, like if how much of the decision making is hers when those resources are being distilled? If it's
Sure.
an equal 50-50 decision making, or if it's like, it's an arrangement, if whatever arrangement it is that works for you, that's great. But if it is not, the decision making is not, and that's when the bitterness or the sort of starts coming in, right? Like it starts coming in that, like, I am earning so much, but for example, if the family has acquired accrued some sort of debt, right?
Mhm.
Then if her income is being used to sort of overcome that debt, or like, the entire, like, because women are generally not known to accrue a lot of debt, right? We've
Yeah,
seen this, like, many,
yeah,
many studies have sort of
yeah.
proven that they
So,
are,
so yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
that they're not debt averse, but they don't take debt as much as, like, at least they don't take up the amount of debt they're not able to pay back. Like, so their
Mhm.
debt payback is also pretty high, and so they they don't accrue a lot of debt, like especially bad debt. Like, they
Mhm.
don't do that. That's a
Mhm.
tendency that's been mapped by a lot of
Oh,
researchers and a
wow.
lot of
Mm.
industry,
So
right?
you
That
are
has known it.
talking about NPAs and all, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
that behavior also becomes important, because then who's paying for that debt, right? Collective, somebody is,
Yeah.
right? Is if she feels like maybe she doesn't want to be responsible for it. So these are very important conversations to have before, let's say, even entering in a relationship. That, has the other person accrued any sort of debt, or how is their behavior around money?
Mm.
Because it is a fairly gendered behavior, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've noticed this. Like, women
Yeah.
are risk aware. I wouldn't say risk averse, but risk aware. Women are
Mm.
debt aware. So they're fairly, and on the other hand, men have been known to be, notoriously known to be, like, take large amounts of debt for gratification also, like, for personal gratification, in which they are not able to sometimes fulfill, like,
Yeah.
and the burden of that, which is sometimes hidden from the women, and the burden of that sometimes falls upon the women when they
Yeah.
enter into the relationship.
Oh, those gratification could be maybe expensive cars and watches and all those things, right? But like
Yeah,
no, and it has
seen
detriment
that. You've seen that.
impact long
Yeah.
term, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah, and you've also seen another interesting behavior around you mentioned it, right? Like, around women have small ticket frequent purchase
yeah,
behavior,
yeah,
and
yeah,
have
yeah.
like a high
Mhm.
ticket
Yeah, cash
like,
flows are very different. Yeah, cash
cash
flows
flows
are
are very, that explains it, right? That
yeah.
that men do indulge in sort of these, like, expensive exercises, which
Mm,
can be very difficult to maintain, like,
mm,
or
mm,
which can be
mm.
very difficult to sort of
Yeah,
pay back, or like,
interesting.
even your Amex, right?
Yeah,
Women don't own as much as many Amexes as men do,
yeah,
right? The,
yeah,
the status symbol bit, like, or the any status exercises,
yeah.
women exercise in very different status symbol exercises, like, for example, getting a house, or
Mm,
that might be a status symbol exercise for them. But for men, usually the status symbol exercises are
yeah,
having an Amex, or
yeah,
like,
yeah,
uh, or their expensive golf membership, or
yeah, yeah.
a lot of those, again, a lot of those, if we start looking at it deeply, a lot of those exercises of money are fairly, like, women usually end up doing it in community, right? Like,
Mm,
they sort of end up, like, buying, like, want this to be about the house, and want this to be about the car that everybody uses,
mm,
right?
mm.
But men, on the other hand, a lot of their expensive exercises are personal gratification,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's where, like, no, I feel is, and maybe I want to have a quick opinion and we can sum up, is
yeah.
uh, relationships and marriage or any sort of relationships are maybe men and women relationship is for companionship, and maybe this part we can make it not very emotional but more process driven. Okay,
Hmm.
that can
Absolutely.
solve some of the problem. What do you think that creating a structure and process around it, um, and completely unnodding it, or like not tying it to the emotion and companionship of living with a woman or like in any relationship is going to help.
Help. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, and we've been seeing that the last few days, there's been a lot of debates, even around fertility, right?
Yeah,
That people are saying that women are choosing, not around fertility, sorry, around the lower kids. A lot of people are not having kids, like double income, no kids, right?
sure.
A lot of people are choosing.
Yeah, things.
So,
Yeah.
right, like dinks, right? So
Mm,
that also is an interesting one because that choice is being made if by a collective. Then we
mm,
have to see that in that structure, I think it doesn't then each to each they perform their own personal gratification and it
sure.
becomes fairly easy, right?
Mm, mm,
It's only when people have children and care work,
yeah,
that's when that, like you said, that financial structure sort of comes in. That's
sure.
when they start thinking about like who's going to pay for what, right? Like, and that's when a
Oh,
lot of these difficult conversations we start having,
okay.
right? Like,
Okay.
I'm doing
Okay.
so much and you know what are you contributing, and I'm pretty sure that it's skewed in like it's fairly skewed in a lot of ways, that usually on a general trend that women end up doing a lot more double work,
Sure.
like double labor in terms of like work and emotional labor or like care work labor with the children, right? Like, so that's where their frustration builds up, that I have to also earn and I also have to take care of this. And
Mm,
I'm sure a lot of men are stepping up and like equally contributing to this, right?
mm, mm,
But we've seen that a lot of physical labor, a lot of reproductive labor still lies with women. So there's no way to change that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
then, like you rightly said, bringing in some structure or bringing in some clarity and transparency, that what's going to happen. Let's be honest, like let's say I have a child, and am I going to be getting like a fixed, like, you know, money payment at the end? Like, not, matlab, am I going to be getting a salary at the end of the month? No, right? Like, you're not. But am I used to getting a salary at the end of the month? Yes.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
am I going to feel extremely diminished or extremely like inaccessible? I might not have access to those funds and like every month from now on.
Mm,
Then what do I do? These conversations are very
has
important
to
because
happen.
this is going to
Mm,
happen, right? Like this
mm,
is uh love is also labor in some ways, right? Like, you know, like
ah, mhm,
right, like there's been so many articles written around that. And the labor of love has to be recognized, that who it's falling on, like a lot
wow,
more, like if it is skewed in any direction, any
mm,
sort of burden, right? even
mm,
even for men, if there is too much financial burden to be the uh, caretakers, or sorry, to be the leaders of financial security, then that also is skewed because they also
sure.
start feeling the pressure and it's crumbling, right?
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
if it's the other way, if it's the other way where care work or like is too much on one side,
Mm,
then that also, I guess, like a good financial structure can really help both parties, like in terms of like feeling
yeah,
secure, in terms of feeling comfortable. And you've also noticed this in your experiences,
yeah,
that
of course.
people who have good financial marriages, like, you know, like end up having much less bitterness at home and much less,
Of
like, you know,
course. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the lot of autonomy for both partners, a lot of like sort of leaves a lot of room for uh, love, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
understanding the cash flow and having money in a well structured way solves almost 90-95% of the problems. Yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah, like in Scandinavia, we are seeing that women are now being paid to stay at home, and not just women, actually, both partners. Either of the care worker is being paid to stay at home and take care of the child, right?
Mm, mm,
Money is an incentive, clearly, right? Like even in a lot of developed nations, like
sure.
that incentive is like, it might not be the best incentive, of course, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
is it an incentive that, for example, I cannot go and uh, I don't know, I cannot go and treat myself with a compliment, right?
yeah.
If I'm constantly rewarded with compliments,
Yeah.
I cannot go and use that compliment as an exchangeable token of like, oh, hey, can you give me a hair spa with a compliment that my husband gave me?
Yeah.
So that becomes important that in the end, money is the exchangeable, tradable currency, right? Like
Yeah.
for me to fulfill my aspirations.
Yeah.
So, or personal aspirations also. Like
Yeah.
that conversation is important. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice conversation. And then we have started
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
something, and I think we have decoded few things for women,
Yeah.
and kind of, and especially in the wealth and lifestyle. And just happy to talk again on some of the different topics.
Yeah,
Maybe. Yeah.
yeah, let's do it again. I think it's a
Yeah.
very important
Yeah.
discussion that we
Thank you,
have.
Sneha. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye.